The Aipa Big Brother Sting in HD Fusion Surfboard Review, the absolute best piece of surfing equipment I have ever surfed in my life. It surfs anything and has no weak points. This is the Shredding Hippie surfboard channel where I review surfboards, especially for older and bigger guys. As you can see, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. That was me a few years ago. So this board, the Aipa Big Brother Sting, I'm not exaggerating when I tell you it's the best piece of surfboard equipment I have ever surfed in my life. So I'm going to get into the specifics of it, but I'm going to turn 60 this year, and it has become a real challenge to find boards that I can shred on, not just stand up and surf. I mean, I've gotten more and more comfortable with buying, mid-length boards and long boards, and just being able to catch waves is great, and being able to trim and get some turns is, listen, a bad day surfing is better than my best day in Boise, Idaho. So you learn to accept what's being brought to you as I'm getting older. I am a big boy. I am 205 pounds, and as I said, I'm pushing 60. I'm also a weightlifter, so it's getting to the point where it's getting really hard to surf tiny little boards. This board you see me surfing here was probably one of my last, I would have called that a short board. Nowadays, this would have been called a mid-length, but that was one of the last boards. I had that board made, when I had my Shredding Hippie label, and I designed it, and I had a guy make it for me. But as time has gone on, I have just gotten tired of trying to, paddle into waves. As you can see on this one, I barely get into this wave. And I don't know, that board probably had maybe 40 something liters, and I was probably 190 pounds. I barely got in that wave. And I just got tired of that. And I just don't have the strength to do that anymore. But I had given up hope. I'll be honest. I had given up hope that I would ever be able to shred again. But I got this big boy. And the reason I got it was because when I was in Florida, I spent a year in Florida. I got chased out of Australia because I'm unvaccinated, and I wanted to get the hell away from, all of that craziness that was going on in the end of 2021. And I went to Florida for a year, and I surfed a lot of really small, weak waves. And I learned to. I made a video on the Go softboard that I used, and which was a great board. I thought I had found that was probably the best big, huge 107 liter volume board, and probably I couldn't get better than that. And when I got here to Australia, I thought I'd get another big softboard, and I got a different brand. I got a Hayden Shapes Lute, which sucked, and I got a Narlu, which also sucked. It wasn't anywhere near as good as the Go softboard, and they didn't have Go softboards. And so the problem is that I've had big boards. I've bought the giant, Mega Magics and the mini Mega Magics, and I enjoyed them. The problem is that I just got tired carrying them. I'm not super tall, and I'm bulky, so I can't carry a 24 by 4 inch surfboard for very long. And here where I'm at, my favorite surf spot, you got to walk through the forest for half a mile, and then walk up and down the beach. And there's just no way that I'm carrying a giant 80, 90, 100 liter board. I'm just not going to do it. Forget about whether or not that board can surf. I'm just not going to carry it anymore. So I had given up on that, and I had gone back to my go-to, which was the Carl Schopper NSP 8.6. It was 22 by 3. It had 64 liters. It had enough liters for me to get into waves. I kind of had to struggle to get into some waves, even now with that much liters at that length. It was too small of a board to take out here to Noosa, which, you have to have really lots of liters to be able to get into those waves, those point breaks. And so I was in this kind of no man's land, and I had just accepted that I was just, at my age, I'm just going to have to give up on performance, and it's just going to be really hard. And then the guy at the local surf shop said, hey, there are these things. And they're locally made, or they're made here in Australia. They're called the Claw. And I got one on eBay for real cheap. And this is something you can stick into the side of your board and carry it. I went, oh, that means I can buy anything. So I gave up on the soft boards. I'd seen the Aipa Big Brother, and I grabbed one up and I spent the money. It was expensive, but I spent the money. And that board showed up, and sure enough, that thing rips. That's not me. But that is the kind of surfing I have been doing on that board. When you are on that board, it turns like a shortboard, especially if the wave has any size or power to it. This board it feels like a mid-length. Let's see, what are the exact measurements on this guy? So the one I have is a 9-foot, 23.5 inches wide by 3.88 inches thick, 91.33 liters, 91 liters. Now, again, Walden's, you could get a Walden with that much liters and you could surf it and you could have fun on it and you can catch waves on it. Walden's, every board has their weak point. Waldens have some weak points. One of them is my experience, and I've seen other people out there surfing, same thing. They are prone to purling. As you're paddling for the wave, the nose will go under. You won't be able to catch the wave because those noses are so like beaky, not beaky, but just sort of round and bulbousy that they just, even the smaller mini Mega Magics like the 7.6, that thing will still purl as you're paddling for the wave. There's other, it's got other weak points, but that's all right. Most boards you figure out where to surf it and how to surf it. This board, from the first time that I took this board out, I got up, I bought the board, I was really excited to take it out. I didn't look at the surf report. I just assumed that the surf was going to be, small. And I had my thing, so I could walk through the forest, for half a mile as my favorite spot, walk through the forest for half a mile, get out onto the empty beach, and I'd be able to surf small, wonderful, beautiful Australian waves. And when I came out of the forest and came up over the sand dune and looked out, it was pumping. It was shoulder to head high, it was offshore, and it was barreling, and it was fat. It was like there was the sandbar that I was looking at was looking like backdoor pipe. And I've got this enormous 9-foot, 91-liter surfboard. And I was excited to go and try it, but I'm like, this isn't the best day to try out a brand new longboard. So I've got this thing set up. I've got it set up as a quad. And, I paddled out. This is the board I got. This is what I'm going to do. So I paddled out, and the first wave I took, from the moment I took off steep and late, and this thing just went right into that wave. And, it wasn't that it was able to handle the drop. It wasn't that it was fast. It wasn't all of that. It's that there was no struggle. It was like the board wasn't there. It just swooped in. The HD Fusion construction made it light, and of course the way the board is shaped, it just knew exactly the board just knew what to do, and it was willing to be whatever I needed it to be. And there isn't a spot on the board, even with long boards, short boards, you have to find where to stand on the board. I'm looking at one of my boards right now that I bought here. It's a really great little mid-length. It's only got like 50-something liters, and it's a really great board. But first couple of times I took it out, I was frustrated until I found the sweet spot. And then you get used to it, and you know exactly where your body knows where to stand, and then you have a good time. I never had to deal with that with this board. The first wave, what blew me away was how fast it was. And I was kind of just shocked, and I didn't really know what to do with it. And I sort of turned and I got high up on the face. With some bigger boards like that, they just don't like that. They want to be down in the trough. But this is a quad, and everything about it. And it said, you want to go high? You want to take the high line? We're going to take the high line. You want to go down low? And by the end of that day, I was surfing waves probably that big and that shape. And I was doing roundhouse cutbacks, coming back up, going vertical on the way back, coming back down. I was getting slotted inside, my head just barely underneath the barrel as it's starting to pitch over the top of my head. And I couldn't believe it. It was like I was 20 years old again. And this board it didn't feel like a 9 foot. I mean, it didn't feel at all like a 9-footer. I mean, obviously it was a 9-footer, but if I was surfing it, I would say it was an 8-foot, a high performance 8-foot. It lost at least a foot on the length. But in smaller stuff, it will still, even in small stuff, it'll turn like crazy. But if you want to trim, if you want to walk to the nose, it literally will do everything. It's literally a one board quiver. You show up and it's ankle high, that 91 liters will get you into the wave. If it's head high, if it's double over, I would have no problems surfing this board in anything that I was willing to paddle into. This thing is a beast. So as you know, the guy that sold it to me said, this thing is a weapon. I mean, it really is. And I couldn't, the thing is, it's like I'm 20 years old again. When I take that board, I'm not thinking about, to myself underneath, kind of denying the fact that, look at that little kid tearing it up. I'm never going to be able to do that again. I'm so excited about surfing this board. So let's take a look at the contours. So let me just tell you something. This is something I learned the hard way. When I started having to get into higher volume boards, I wanted to go the lost board route. I wanted to have single concave or really deep double concave. So far, I don't know if you can see it or not. That is still my favorite board. That's my Stewart 7.4 custom. It's got about 65 liters. That's the 949, and that thing has super deep double concave. And that board, I wouldn't surf here in Australia over that. If I took an 8-foot of that, I wouldn't surf it here because the waves here just don't like that. All that double concave when you get a larger board. Smaller board, that's different. So I learned real quick that when I got here to Australia the first time around and I started surfing these different kinds of waves, it could be barreling or it could be soft. It could, it's not like California where it's just this big giant wall that comes up and you have to have something that'll get you, keep you from getting closed out on. You have to have a board that can handle within one wave going from super steep to super soft. So that 7.4 works pretty good in just about anything, but again, at this point it's getting tough for me to paddle into smaller, softer point waves. So it's getting tough. I only take that out when I know I'm going to be able to get into the waves and they're steep enough and hollow enough for me to be able to tear it up and have a good time. So that means a lot of times I show up to the beach with a board that just kind of does nothing well but catches waves. It doesn't do anything 100% beautifully. But now I'm not worried about that anymore. And it's because of the contours. What I learned first time around is that, as I was saying, deep, double, super, deep concaves, double concaves, once you start getting into higher volume boards and bigger boards, it just doesn't work. What works well, the reason why I liked the Carl Schopper butter knife was that it had simple, old school contours which work. That's why, they've been around since the beginning. You have, a belly in the nose, which goes into a rolled V, and then a V going out the tail. That is a board that'll work in any condition. It'll work in steep conditions. It'll work in big boards, small boards, but big, long boards especially, it loves that. Well, that's what we got going on here. We got old school. The reason why this thing is so good in everything is because it's not trying to overdo it. But the stuff that it does really well. So it's got very low rocker, which again is you've got a lot of surface area of the board on the wave as you're paddling into it, which means you're going to be able to get into the wave. You've got the rails there you've got down rails, just comes down, good down high performance rails, perfect for a big board like that. You've got, of course, the stinger there. Now that's where the looseness comes in. And again, with boards, you have super loose board that won't be able to handle a steep drop, that kind of stuff. This thing will, especially as a quad. And you've got underneath, you've got a blended roll, so there's no concave in the nose. That's good because what that does is it gets rid of the chop as you're coming through. It'll get the chop out of the way. It means that the nose wants to go into the wave, even as an EP board. The nose wants to go into the wave as you're coming into it, and again it gets rid of all the chop as you're coming in. And then as you're going into the middle of the board, you got the rolled V. That is going to do the same kind of thing, but what's going to happen is it's going to start giving you turning ability, and so this is a board you can turn it from wherever I'm looking back at it. It's in another room there. You can turn it from any part of the board. Longboards, I'm not a longboarder. So one of the most difficult things is learning how to stand up at the back of the board and then turn the thing from the back of the tail. If you got a short board, you can turn it from the tail, no problem. Your foot just goes there, you move little tiny movements. When you got this big giant 9-foot board, if it needs you to be in the right spot and you're not in the right spot, that wave is done. You're going head first. This board, because of all the things, but I think also because it's got that rolled V in the middle of the board, you can surf it from anywhere. You can do little adjustments, especially as a quad. It'll do little adjustments for you. Same thing with a single fin with the right shape. You can turn it from different parts of the board. You don't have to be right back over on the tail. And then we've got the V, and the V becomes really pronounced, but it's not a V double. So a V double will lift the board up and then make it kind of fishy, kind of squirrely. And or like with the 949, if the 949 doesn't have enough water going underneath it, those concaves don't kick in, and then the board just ends up trash can lidding over the whole thing. So that's the biggest problem I found way back, as I started experimenting with larger volumed, like lost boards, is that if you don't have enough volume going underneath, it'll just trash can lid, and then you're going slower and you can't turn it and it gets stiff. So this board will do everything, and it has, I wish I could show you, it has a huge amount of V that goes right out the tail. It's got that swallow tail, which acts like two pintails. It's just the perfect board. I've never said that about any board. I've never said a board was perfect that I remember. This board is perfect. It's the perfect piece of equipment. And this is just the 9-foot, and it's got 90 liters. And if I can surf this 9 foot with 90 liters, and what you see here, that guy isn't working hard to do that. He's just surfing it like he would surf a shortboard. The more wave you got underneath it, the more shortboardy it becomes. Especially, you've got a good wave that's at least shoulder high, head high, and it's got a nice shoulder to it. And you come out on the shoulder, you're pulling out a huge part of that board. And because it's made out of EPS epoxy, it's super light, so you don't have a bunch of swing weight to try and deal with. Again, I felt like I was a little kid. And I've got coming the big boy Sting, which is, this one is coming. They only had an 8.4. I was looking for an 8-foot, but they got an 8.4. But, that's going to surf like my 7.4 949, which surfs like an absolute shortboard for me at 205 pounds, that EPS board. So anyway, if you're looking for the perfect board, if you're an older guy, you're a heavier guy, or if you want to surf a longboard, or you want a one board quiver. I've never really meant that. My 8.6 shopper, I treated that like my one board quiver, but the truth is, sometimes it was it was a little tough to turn. I could turn it, of course, and sometimes it just really wanted to track like a longboard. Sometimes it really opened up if the wave was right, but I knew that I was on an 8.6 most of the time. Most of the time I could feel I was on a bigger, longer board and I had to track it. This thing, I can surf it exactly like I would surf a shortboard quad don't believe me, don't take my word for it. Go out and get one. So as I said, I'm going to get the big boy Sting at 8.4. That's coming in tomorrow. And I'm looking forward to surfing that. We got a swell coming through, and I'm looking to give that guy a try. If that 9-foot 91 liter board surfs like a shortboard, then that 8.4 80 liter Sting with a pulled in nose, I think that thing will be even better. But I'll let you know. I'll give you another review on that one. So that's it. The Aipa Big Boy. Big Brother Sting in HD Fusion. If you're thinking about it, get one. And if you need to, you can go on to look on eBay for this thing called the Claw. There's other things you can do. There's like little carrying cases things I'm finding and all that. But this one is real simple. I just put it in there, and then when I get to the beach, I just toss it in the bushes. And that way I can walk around, carry this for half a mile or a mile, and I'm not my arm isn't stretched out of its socket by the time I get back to my car. All right, that's it, guys. I wish you all the best, and I'll see you all next time.